It is often said that the longest journey begins with the first step. And here at Fund Access, we give you the courage to start your journey, to grow, to live your dream. For more than 20 years, Fund Access has been empowering entrepreneurs through access to finance, business training, and technical assistance. So whatever stage you're at, we can help. Call us at 228-1366 or visit us online at www.fundaccess.org. Fund Access, empowering entrepreneurs.
We are going to be talking about statutory requirements, specifically the NIS and the BRA. As I said before, I'm sitting in for Miss Christine Jones, and I will be your host for today's session. The person facilitator for today's session is Mr. John Catwell. And just let me give you a little bit of his bio about John. He is an accountant attached to the Fund Access Finance Department, where he's responsible for assisting the finance manager in the supervision of the accounting functions of the department. Some of the functions include monthly payroll and statutory payments, and assisting with the management and completion of external audits. Mr. Catwell holds a degree in accounting from the University of the West Indies and has several years' experience in various sectors, having worked in the energy, banking, insurance, and legal fields. So ladies and gentlemen, you wouldn't want a person who is more qualified to give you some of the basic information surrounding these very, very important topics. So without further ado, I will hand you over now to Mr. Catwell. Mr. Catwell.
Thank you, Ronald. It is indeed a pleasure to be here and to be asked to do this presentation on the NIS and the BRA. First of all, I'm going to deal firstly with the NIS. The topics covered today would be an overview of the structure of the institution, a brief history of the social security system in Barbados between 1880 and 1957, development of the scheme from 1957 to present, looking mainly at the benefits received over the last 5.5 decades, programs facilitated through the NIS on behalf of the government, coverage of benefits for self-employed persons, employment injury and unemployment benefits, contributions and levies for self-employed persons, rates paid by persons and how they're calculated, voluntary contributions, and last but no means least, how to register for the NIS, to receive an NIS number. And then after that, we'll do a brief recap and answer any questions that you may have. The NIS has been in the news of late for not all, let's say all good reasons. However, once persons are making contributions, I'm sure that they're within their right to ask the questions. But I will assure you that the NIS is indeed an extremely, extremely important institution, and by extension, all persons earning an income should definitely want to contribute, because the benefits, once at the end of this presentation, I'm hoping to convince you, if you were having any difficulties or any challenges based on what you've been hearing in the news, to more than convince you that the NIS is something that is meaningful, it's worthwhile, and it serves its purpose for which it was intended all these many years ago up until now. And I'm sure in the future it will serve a purpose, and it certainly has for me, and I'm sure it would serve a purpose for yourself and your family and your future existence in Barbados. To start by doing the structure of the organization, the NIS is, first of all, the NIS, the slogan is, it's more than a contribution, it's your lifeline. And that is indeed true. Because some persons may say that you make a contribution every month, every week, every quarter if you are self-employed, and you don't get any benefits. And I'm sure that if you happen to become ill, injured, or you happen to be going on maternity leave or some other incident that prevents you from earning an income by you're on sick leave, I'm sure you've made your contributions to the national insurance. You would have received some benefit or such during during your working life, right? So I will give you just a brief, just to get us rolling. The NIS is located at the Frank Walcott building on Culloden Road. This is a very large pink structure. If you come across Culloden Road, it's going to be on your left. If you're coming from, let's say, the direction of the Garrison, it's going to be on your left, and you can't miss it. The telephone number, so you can get a pen and paper and take this telephone number down, is 431-7400, or you can reach the call center at 467-4647, or you can go on the website at www.nis.gov.bb. This year, back in June, the NIS would have celebrated 55 years of its existence, having come into being on June 5th, 1967. And this is quite a long time. The structure, how the institution functions, it is run by a board, along with a body corporate, the National Insurance Office, which is a unit of the Civil Service of Barbados. The minister responsible for the NIS is the Honorable Colin Jordan MP. He's responsible for making the appointments to the board, and the National Insurance falls under his office. The board is made up of 10 members, and it is tripartite, meaning that it's representative of the government, the workers, which are represented by the unions, and the employers of the workers. So we have three sets of persons: the government, the union that represents the workers, and the employers' unions are all represented on the NIS board. The minister, as may necessary, devise regulations under the National Insurance and Social Security Act to regulate the scheme. So he has full responsibility, and I'm sure that anything that the minister sees that may obviously be of benefit to the scheme and by extension to the contributors of the scheme, he has the power to mandate that under the power of his office. The functions of the board and the directors are outlined in the various regulations, and they are charged with the general control and management of the fund, not on a day-to-day basis, but moving the fund from one phase to the next. And the director of the board is Ms. Kim Tudor, who is the CEO, and she has full responsibility for determining matters of such as rights and benefits, and for the day-to-day management of the office. So that's the structure. So we have the minister in charge, where the NIS falls under his ministry. We have the board, a 10-member board, and we have represented by the government, the unions, representing the workers, and the employers' unions. Right. I'm going to now go to a brief history of the fund before the Social Security scheme as we know it today. It basically, between 1880 and 1955, there were several acts that were put in place to provide a social safety net, as it were, for workers and their families. And I'm going to just go through a few of the acts back then. In 1880, there was the Poor Law Relief Act. 1916, Workmen's Compensation Act. 1928, Widows and Orphans Pension Act. 1938, the Pension Act. And 1955, the Sugar Workers Provident Fund. And I would just give you a brief description of what these acts meant and the intended purpose during that time. The Workmen's Compensation Act, from this time, employees were paid compensation to any workmen who receive personal injury by accidents on the job. The Widows and Orphans Pension Act, a contributory widows and orphans pension scheme, was set up for male public servants. 4% was deducted from the salary contributions, and these were paid over to the family in the event that something would have happened to them. However, if you failed a medical, you were not allowed to contribute to the scheme. In 1938, the Pensions Act came about, and it was prompted because of the inadequacies of the poor pension relief system, because applicants had to go through numerous means tests, and they were quite rigid to be able to qualify. And then in 1955, we had the Sugar Workers Provident Fund, which provided benefits for retired and displaced sugar workers, for the widows and dependents of deceased workers. Certain sugar workers receive a modest pension on retirement and a funeral grant on their death, but they did not make any actual payment towards the fund. So this was kind of let's say it was kind of a benefit without you actually making a contribution during this time. I'm sure that once Barbados started to expand, and as we know it today, we started to move from pre-independence or to post-independence, and actually even closer to independence, right? The scheme, the national insurance scheme as we know it now, was further developed, right? And it sought to reinforce the principles of mutual solidarity, which recognizes Barbados' greatest asset being the people. And if that is recognized, that the asset of a country or any country is its people, then things were put in place to ensure that not only you get the maximum benefit from persons, but that the persons themselves were able to reap the benefits of a country moving from one stage to the next, which means that if better working conditions, better salaries, the whole thing that would encourage someone to produce, and by extension, helping the country move from one stage to the next, right? Now, over the last 5.5 decades, there were quite a number of things that that would have come into being under the national insurance. Let's say in the 70s, the employment injury benefit was introduced, and also the self-employed persons became insurable for long-term benefits, invalidity, survivors, and old age contribution and grants. Coverage of self-employed extended to include sickness and maternity, and we also had the spouses insured persons receiving grants during the 70s. In the 80s, the rates and sickness benefits increased from 60% to 66 and 2/3%. We also had the maternity grant being introduced. The unemployment benefits became payable to persons who contributed for at least 52 weeks. In the 90s, minimum pension was increased to $76 a week. Rates of unemployment benefits changed slightly, and this was in early 1991. In the 2000s now, we had the catastrophe fund, we had the training account, and then there was also the business interruption fund. Just to say a few words about the catastrophe fund, which was in 2007, the purpose of the fund really was to facilitate low-income earners who own houses and occupied to the value of not exceeding $150,000. If the house had suffered any damage, then they were able to draw on this or benefit from this fund. The retraining account was also set up, and this was set up to retrain unemployed persons who would have made contributions to the unemployment fund that for some reason they weren't able to be employed in that particular area. Therefore, these funds were made available for them to retrain themselves. And then last but no means least, during this last pandemic where we had the COVID, there was a business interruption fund where persons were eligible to receive $1,500 for 2 months after they became unemployed during the COVID period. Now, that in itself, and that's only just a brief taste of the benefits in which persons are able to access once they make the contributions to the National Insurance Scheme. Now, I'm going to move on to the coverage and benefits for self-employed persons, because I am sure most of you, or quite a bit of self-employed people, would be looking at this time. So we just want to make sure that you as self-employed will understand how important you are in providing the service that you do, and also to be part of the scheme, because you make a contribution to the scheme and you also benefit from making a contribution to the scheme. Now, this coverage for self-employed persons include sickness benefits, maternity benefits, invalidity pension and grant, old age contributory pension or grant, funeral grant, survivors pension or grant. Now, I'm going to go through not all of them. I'm just going to touch a few, and because most of it is self-explanatory. Because in order to benefit from the fund, there are certain criteria which must first be met before you have access to these funds. Now, a self-employed person may qualify for sickness benefit provided that 1, he or she has paid no less than 7 contributions in the contribution quarters, but 1 before the contribution quarter in which he or she becomes ill. I'll read that again. He or she has paid no less than 7 contributions in the contribution quarter, but 1 before the contribution quarter in which he or she becomes ill. 2, he or she has been insured for not less than 13 contribution weeks, and he or she must have not less than 39 contributions paid or credited to their account in 4 consecutive quarters ending with the quarter, but 1 before the contribution quarter in which the incapacity commenced. I know that's a mouthful. I'll say it again, and I'll be slow this time. He or she must have not less than 39 contributions paid or credited to his or her account in 4 consecutive quarters ending with the quarter, but 1 before the contribution quarter in which the incapacity commenced. Then, to qualify for maternity benefit, a self-employed person must have not less than 39 contributions paid or credited to her account in the 4 consecutive quarters ending with the quarter, but 1 before the contribution quarter in which benefits could become payable. I'll repeat again. To qualify for the maternity benefit, a self-employed person must have not less than 39 paid or credited to her account in 4 consecutive quarters ending with the quarter, but 1 before the contribution quarter in which benefit could become payable, and must have paid at least 16 contributions in 2 consecutive quarters, but 1 must be before the contribution quarter in which the benefit could be payable. Now, all that means is that before applying for these benefits, all these criteria must be met before you can apply. Not that you would have paid before, 2 years before, 3 years before, 4 years before, but it must be immediately preceding the period in which when you apply, your payments must be made in the preceding period before you can actually make application to receive the benefit. I say, if at any time, you can always refer to the information that I'm giving to you, and this can be had on the NIS website, which is again www.nis.gov.bb. I'm not going to go through all of them now because time is of the essence. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but I've listed them. And if you have any questions, feel free on the YouTube chat. Just put your questions in the YouTube chat, and we certainly, if we can address them now, we certainly will address them for you in the future. Or again, you can refer to the NIS website and have this information, and or contact the call center, and these guys, I'm sure, would put you in the right direction. I'm going to move now on to the employment injury and unemployment benefit, because I'm sure that most of you who are self-employed would definitely want to know if you can receive benefit whilst injured or unemployment benefit if for some reason your business is not functioning. I will say this, unfortunately, self-employed persons are not eligible for unemployment injury benefit or unemployment benefit. Therefore, and I will say this slowly, therefore, you will not be required to contribute to that fund. Because a little later on in my presentation, I'll explain to you when I say you won't be required to contribute to that portion of the fund, right? But again, self-employed persons are not eligible for employment injury benefit and unemployment benefit, and therefore will not be required to contribute towards these funds. And you are also not eligible for non-contributory pension. You would have made a contribution, and hence you would be eligible for a contributory pension, but not non-contributory. And again, certain criteria must be met first before you are eligible for the fund. Now, I'm going to do a brief calculation and show you basically, right? As I said before, you won't be able to contribute you're not required to contribute to the unemployment or injury benefit. Your rate of contribution as self-employed would be 17.1%. And this is broken down, if you can see on the screen, 13.5% to NIS, 2% to non-contributory, 0.5% to the training levy, 0.1% to the catastrophe, and 1% to the health service contribution. Now, I just give you a little background. As an employed person, you are required to contribute 11.1% of your salary is your contribution, up to a maximum of $4,880 a month on your national insurance contribution. Now, so if you're getting confused, self-employed is calculated different to when you're employed. So if your friends are saying to you, but I only pay 11.1%, but you're self-employed, say you pay 17.1%, they're two totally different categories, hence why it is like that. Now, contributions payable by a self-employed person are based on his or her earnings. So whatever you choose there's a minimum and there's a maximum. So whatever you choose to declare as your income, that is what the calculation is based on. So if you choose to make your contribution, and these contributions are paid via the quarter. If you're employed, the contributions are paid every month, but self-employed persons are paid their contributions every quarter. So January, February, and March, they're paid in April. But again, as I go down, I will tell you a little more about that, right? Now, a little further down on the page, you can see the calculation. Just a brief calculation as to how it works. If your income is $21 a week and you pay 17.1% of that, it works out to be $3.59. If you work for $91 a month, it's $15.51. If you work for $1,126 a week, which is the maximum, you pay $192.54. And if you work for $4,880 a month, your rate is $834.48. As I say, regardless of how much your income is for that you declare, the maximum that you will only benefit from is $4,880. So bear that in mind. So if you are a millionaire and you want to say, well, you work for $1 million, you can put it on the form, but you would only reap the benefits of $4,880 for that will come back to you if you are to gain any benefits from the scheme. You can also do voluntary contribution if you want to, which is not a bad thing, right? A self-employed person on ceasing employment may apply to the National Insurance Board to become a voluntary contributor to the scheme when he or she has paid at least 150 contributions as an employed or self-employed person. So you can only apply to be a voluntary contributor to the scheme if you've previously paid 150 contributions to the scheme. Now, please note that the contributions may be a mixture of both. So it's not that because you were self-employed, you were employed and did 150, and you have to become, and you become self-employed, you do another 150. No, it's a blend. It can be 100 of one, 50 of the other. But once it totals 150 contributions, you can then apply to have the status of being a voluntary contributor to the scheme. Self-employed persons on becoming voluntary contributors continue to contribute to the old age contributory grant or pension and a survivor's benefit only. So once you continue to contribute the old age contributory, the grant or pension and a survivor's benefit is what you will be contributing towards.
Okay, so just let us remind persons that you are free to ask any questions on the chat. And well, so far it's been very, very deep in terms of the information given, but feel free to ask any questions. At this point in time, just let me mention quickly the sponsors for these sessions. We have Scotiabank, the City of Bridgetown Credit Union, our friends over at the Barbados Trust Loans Limited, Trident 10, and the Barbados Workers Union. So, John, I was just going to query you on that 17%, is it, for self-employed persons? And that is different from
17.1%.
0.1%. That's different from the other NIS, which is 11. I think
Yeah.
you're making
If
that
you
point.
right, if you are employed and you work for a company,
Right.
the company is required to deduct 11.1%
Right.
of your salary up to a maximum of $4,880 a month.
Right.
However, if you are self-employed, the rate changes because the being self-employed and employed, two totally different structures.
Right. Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Very good.
Okay. And what I would say is that your salary does not change like that every month. As self-employed, you can declare income across whatever income you need.
Oh, okay.
Yeah?
Okay. Yeah, that puts a clear picture
Right.
on things to me. Okay.
All right. The next, having gone through all of that, and I'm sure that you guys out there are all anxious, having seen all the potential benefits that you can get contributing to the scheme, you are anxious to know how do I register to get my NIS number. And as a self-employed person, register my business, register myself, and get going to be able to partake in these benefits in the near future. The process is quite simple. Once you visit the office at Culloden Road, and this is I remind you, the Frank Walker building on Culloden Road. Once you visit the office, you are expected to carry some form of picture ID, could be your Barbados ID, your passport, a driver's license, and the original birth certificate. No copies would be accepted. You must walk with only original documents to register yourself. If it's a business, all the company documents that you would have gotten once you register the business, all your incorporation documents, those are needed if you want to register your business. But as an individual, driver's form a picture ID and your original birth certificate, and you will proceed to the security checkpoint. Once you get there, you let them know you are going to the registration office, and this is one floor up. They will sign you in. You can proceed to the office and present them with the information. Any document that you present to the officers, they're going to copy them and they're going to hand your documents back the same time. You're not going to keep the documents, so don't be afraid that if I bring my original documents, they're going to be kept and they're going to be misplaced. I was assured that every single document that you present to the National Insurance, they are going to give you back once they've copied them. They're going to also ask you to fill out the application form. All the information that's needed, and I believe it is quite straightforward. Any information that is needed, you follow all that information, and once that's done, they give you the NIS number for yourself as an individual or for your company. And you get back the card or the number on the spot. So that's it for registration. Original documents only, form a picture ID, and you present yourself, and in a matter of minutes, you are good to go with your national insurance number, so that if you're self-employed, you can start making your contributions. If you're starting up a business and you start doing your stuff, you can make a business. Now, one thing I'm remembering, I apologize for just bringing it back, but I would backtrack a bit. If you are an employer, you're required to deduct the 11.1% from your employee, and you are also required to pay on the company's end 12.75% of the person's salary as your contribution to the national insurance as well. So individual, self-employed, 17.5. However, if you have a company, you are required to do the 11.1% for your employees, and on the company, 12.75%, which makes a total of 23.85%. No?
Okay, yes.
Right.
Yes.
So you're not, as an employer, you're not only deducting for your staff, but you're making a contribution on behalf of the company as well. And then both must be submitted together. Right? Let me make that clear. They both must be submitted together. Now,
before you go on, John, that's good information there, because as far as the process is involved in it, I know these things usually take a long time. So I'm surprised to hear that all this can be done in one day, pretty much on the spot. Yeah. Okay.
Because I actually did a check with the National Insurance Office early in the week, and I was assured by the customer service agent that once you bring all the required information, you can get it back. They don't usually, because as I say, you don't want your documents to be kept and then they're misplaced and everything like that, because these are original documents that you're expected to bring. So I think that once you bring them, you get them in, they're copied, you get them at the same time. Yeah.
That on that point about the 23.5, and you know, it sounds like a lot. 0.75.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot, but when you talk about, I guess you want to talk.
But that's remember that's a combination.
Exactly. The benefits though, down the road, you know.
Right.
Yeah, it's very important. Okay.
Right. Now, and that's it for registration. Now, once you register and you actually start to make your contributions, as a self-employed person, you make contributions every quarter. Every quarter you make the contributions. January, February, March, your contribution is paid on or before the 15th of the following month. Let me just see. Just give me a calculation. Oh, no. Right. So January, February, March, you make your payments on the 15th of the following month. April, May, and June, you make your contributions on the 15th of July. Similarly, July, August, and September on the 15th of October, and October, November, and December for the year, your contributions are due on or before the 15th of January the next year. Now, you can actually make your submission on hard copy because they're forms that you can actually fill out, and the forms are quite simple, right? They're not difficult to fill out. Again, if you go on the website, you will see what the forms look like, and it's self-explanatory. And what they've done is that for self-employed persons, each form is color-coded. So January, February, March, one color, April, May, June, another, July, August, September, and October, November, December, they're all color-coded. So you wouldn't be able to submit a pink. If pink is for, and I know pink is one of the colors for sure, if pink is for July, August, September, you won't be able to use that form for January, February, or March, right? But these forms can be collected at the National Insurance Office so that once you fill the forms out and you're making your contributions and your payments, then you can drop them off the same time. And they're usually in duplicate as well. So you can retain a copy for yourself and submit the original to the National Insurance Office. Now, payments must be made from the contributions deducted. This is both self-employed and employee deductions. Right. Payments must be made on his contribution schedule and payment certificate provided by the National Insurance. That's why I was just talking about to make the contribution, and should be paid by the 15th day after the end of the calendar quarter for which they are due. Failure to do so in a proper time would result in a 1% per month penalty. So once you're registered, please, I urge you, make your payments on time. So if for instance you make a deduction for September, and September is the end of the quarter, feel free, you can actually pay it in September. You don't necessarily have to wait until the 15th of the following month to pay. I say it is due and payable on or before then. So to ensure that you are in compliance with all the regulations and you don't suffer any needless penalties, the thing to do, once your payroll is over and it's finished and you've done all your remittances to the various accounts, and if it's yourself and you're self-employed, one should follow the other. Payroll, after payroll, NIS, after NIS, BRA, taxes submitted, so that at the end you would save yourself the hassle of having to pay all these needless penalties where you can possibly avoid them. Because in this day and age, things are tight. So any monies that you can keep without letting go easily by way of fines or penalties, that would be I'm sure that would be helpful. Now, that basically brings us to the end. Not quite. Now, apart from the benefits that the individuals receive from the national insurance, self-employed persons may be required to have a clearance certificate from the NIS as proof that all of the payments are up to date. Now, this may be required to access assistance from central government. Maybe I understand if you are applying if you're tendering for some process involving government, that you may be asked to provide a clearance certificate which shows that all your NIS is up to date. And I know for sure one of the requirements to access the approved small business status, which then allows you to have other concessions, you must be registered with NIS. So in order to be registered with NIS and in order to access the clearance certificate, all your payments must be up to date to get and to be able to get these benefits. Now, one other benefit, the NIS itself then has served a tremendous purpose to Barbados and Barbadians over the years, right? So I am sure that having gone through the last half hour listening to all this information, and I purposely started from the history, structure the history, and came forward so that persons will be aware of all the benefits in which they can get making a contribution to the NIS. Everything will have its challenges, and everything is not straightforward. But at the end of the day, I do believe, and I'm sure my colleague Ronald also believes, that making your contribution, registering with an NIS and making a contribution could only benefit yourself and your family. So any questions that you guys may have had, feel free to put them on the website and we will certainly answer them. Or again, you can visit the NIS office or you can go on the website and all this information is here. And certainly the customer service department at NIS would be more than happy to guide you in the questions that you would have had based on this short presentation that I would have made. That's it, Ron, for NIS.
Yeah, but before you move on to your next presentation, you mentioned about voluntary contributions. Let me see if I pick up on that. You must have paid 150 contributions before you can benefit from the scheme. Is that what I'm seeing here?
No,
that's interesting.
In order to be considered to make the application to be a voluntary contributor, you must previously have paid 150 contributions. So you can't just start by saying I want to be a voluntary contributor.
Right.
You have to meet the criteria first. You must have paid 150 contributions. Could be blended, could have been as an employed person,
Right.
or as a self-employed person. So you can't just start by saying I want to be a voluntary contributor to the scheme.
Right. Okay, great. What about those concessions? Tax clearance you mentioned is one of them as well. Is there anything else in terms of, because you want people to understand that there are some benefits, some other benefits that you can have by paying your national insurance. Anything?
No. All right. For argument's sake, there were some programs that were implemented during COVID.
Right.
The cessation fund, and then the retraining as well. That was part of it. Where once you were a contributor, you were given, because of the hardships of COVID, you were able to access X amount of money from the fund, and this was facilitated by the NIS, and you would have qualified for it having made your contributions. So as opposed to only sickness, injury, a pension, because you would only get you are only eligible for injury benefit when you're injured, sickness when you're sick, a grant or let's say a death benefit when you died. Your family will get that, not you.
Okay.
But so rather than specific things, persons are alive going through COVID. Hence, there was nothing in place to assist. So therefore, that is one of the things that they would have come up with to assist you during COVID. Because you're not injured, you're not sick, and you certainly didn't die. And you're not on maternity leave, right? So I said, I believe like from time to time, but the scheme is probably set up in such a way that once funds are available, things can be set up to assist persons for that particular need. And COVID certainly was a need, and at that point in time, and this is one of the things that was set up.
And I think one of their tagline pretty much is it's your lifeline, pretty much, right?
Right. It's just it's not a contribution, it's your lifeline.
It's your lifeline.
That's it there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Okay, before while you switch over to your BRA presentation, I'd just like to remind persons once more, feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and we will gladly answer them. Once again, just let me mention the sponsors: Scotiabank, the City of Bridgetown Credit Union, the Barbados Trust Loans, our friends over there, Trident 10, and the Barbados Workers Union. And just let me say, give kudos pretty much to the Barbados Entrepreneurship Foundation for putting on these series of webinars along with Fund Access. And we expect that persons would benefit very greatly from them. Okay, so John is ready for the Barbados Revenue Authority to give us some more information on that. Go right ahead.
All right. Before I proceed, I know that the first half took long, so I'm going to kind of not rush through this, but I'm going to speak generally on the registration of taxes, but then I will also refer you to their website and on YouTube. The BRA has put out quite a lot of material on YouTube and is extremely comprehensive in terms of getting yourself all TAMIS ready. All right. Now, once you're by law, once you are gaining an income, you should pay taxes. That's you shouldn't, whether you're self-employed, whether you're employed, you should pay taxes. Now, what determines the level of tax you pay is the level of salary, and the structure is staggered, is like a step process in terms of paying taxes. You get the first $25,000 free, which is tax-free, and then the rates move according to, once your salary moves up, then the rates move according. There are various deductions that you can use to reduce the amount of tax that you pay. That obviously is a lot deeper, and I don't think we would have enough time to cover that here. But I refer you to the BRA website and YouTube, where there are quite a number of videos that you can actually step by step and walk you through the process as to how to register and become a taxpayer. Now, the website for the TAMIS, as we know it, which is the BRA website, whttp://tamis.bra.gov.bb. And once you get on that website, you can hit register now. And once you hit register now, it's going to ask you a series of questions to get you started, because you cannot, in order to access the TAMIS system, you must be a web user. So which means this is just the process of becoming a web user. Once you go on the website and you hit the tab register now, it's going to start to ask you a series of questions. First name, last name, contact telephone number, an active email address. And I stress an active email address, because they will use this email address to correspond with you, and it will not be shared with any outside party. So this email address is linked to you, and it is a way of the BRA corresponding to you. And you will see how important this email address is once I get a little further down into the presentation. You're then asked to create a password and confirm the password. Note carefully that your password must be a certain amount of characters. It must also have a certain amount of letters, and it must also have a certain amount of special characters. And when I say special characters, I mean like the hashtag, the @sign, the $, etc. So I'll go through this again slowly. Once you're creating a password to begin to access your TAMIS, it must be a certain number of characters. It must also have a certain amount of letters. It must also have a certain amount of special characters, the example, the hashtag, the @sign, or the $. So what is a special character? Then one of those, at least a letter and a certain amount of characters for your password. So you would be asked to enter the password and then reconfirm the password. If on reconfirming the password it's not correct, it's not going to let you advance. Also, if you look at the form, there's going to be an asterisk on what is required. There's always an asterisk by it saying to you, but you will not be able to advance unless you answer this particular question or put this piece of information within the slot for where the information goes. All right? It's going to ask you for your date of birth, the country of birth, your national registration number, if you are a resident of Barbados. And once that's done, there's a new security feature now that most websites use that would ask you to ensure that you're not a robot. You have to check that box. If you don't check that box, you will not again be allowed to advance. And then there's a little note at the bottom that says read and agree. So you must click that box again to signify that you agree with all the information that you've put in and the conditions by which you are using the site. So once you click that, at the bottom now, there's another tab that says create your account. And once you click to create your account, it automatically will go to the BRA website, and then within a matter of seconds, you will get back something saying what your username is. And once you get that back, you hit create your account. And once you create an account, remember, it gives you your username. And for instance, if your name is John Doe, and that's the name that you would have put in when you were doing the registration, it's going to come back John Doe 1. If you do it twice, John Doe 2. So that is always your unique username to access your registration from the BRA website. And don't forget your password or username. And once you log, at that stage now, once you log on, then it takes you to another screen. And this screen asks you for all of your personal information. All of the personal information. And so you take your time, you read it slowly, ensure that you take or check or fill out all the required information. If you see by a question and there's an asterisk, it will not proceed unless you answer this question. So it skips from screen to screen to screen. Now, one important thing though, I must alert you that when you are, once you get to that stage in registering for the NIS, there are usually four, just give me a second. There are usually 4 categories. There are usually 3 options where you can choose from. And the option that you choose is very important because this certainly puts you into the category in which the information that you see uploaded on your screen is relevant to you, right? And the one that all self-employed and employed persons should pick would be, I am an authorized person registering as a new individual. This is usually option 3. This is option 3, in fact. And it is for employed persons, self-employed persons, company owners that are sole traders. And that's where you click. So once you click on that button, it will then, and you advance it, it will then ask you all the information. Please read all the information carefully, to which you click yes or no. And it will go from page to page to page to page. And at the end of this, once the information is correct, at the end of this, you would then, and you submit it, you will then be furnished with a TAMIS number, and this number will come to you via the email address, the active email address that I had asked you earlier, to ensure that the email address that you are using and that you submit is active. Because if it is not active, you won't get an email which will stall the process, which means you have to start over again to get the registration process going. One final thing though, must note, if you do not respond to the email, you have 48 hours to activate your TAMIS account. If you don't activate it within 48 hours, then you will be required to resubmit the previous information and go through the process again. So that's very important. Once you start the registration process and you don't activate the application, the email within the account, within 48 hours, you will have to start the process all over again. All right, that's it. So you're pretty much on your way as an individual. And companies may be slightly different, but I've deliberately addressed only individuals. If you want a more in-depth on this, you can feel free to refer to the BRA website, or you can go on YouTube and type in BRA Barbados, and once you go there, there is a tutorial that the BRA has put up, and it's not long, it's like just over 6 minutes, and it is quite comprehensive, right? It's slow, and it tells you, it goes through how to re-register someone who's already registered, just to give you a feel as to what is happening, the information that is required when you register for your TAMIS number, right? So it's the BRA website or YouTube, TAMIS registration tutorial for businesses, and on YouTube, and you will be on your way. Other than that, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. All right. Remember, activate that account within
48 hours.
48 hours, or you start all over again.
That's right.
Those are the kind of things that people need to hear. Very, very comprehensive, John. I like your presentation. Right, so that's the end of the presentation. Just a quick recap, John. Just you could tell me, add in anything here. You learned about the history of the NIS.
Yep.
That was very comprehensive. How it's calculated, right? And how to apply for TAMIS. Those are the kind of things that people really need to hear. And remember, this is the basics pretty much, as you emphasize. If you want more information, you can go to the NIS website or the BRA website, right? Okay. So that is our presentation for the day. Once again, let me just commend once again the Barbados Entrepreneurship Foundation for putting on these series of sessions, getting everybody up to date on what is required in business from start to finish. Okay, this is the last session of this series, and we hope that people have learned as much as possible from it. And remember, these sessions are taped, and of course you can go back to the YouTube account, YouTube platform, and see and watch these sessions all over again. So no questions from anybody, so that's it for today. Goodbye and have a great day.
It is often said that the longest journey begins with the first step. And here at Fund Access, we give you the courage to start your journey, to grow, to live your dream. For more than 20 years, Fund Access has been empowering entrepreneurs through access to finance, business training, and technical assistance. So whatever stage you're at, we can help. Call us at 228-1366 or visit us online at www.fundaccess.org. Fund Access, empowering entrepreneurs. It is often said that the longest journey begins with the first step. And here at Fund Access, we give you the courage to start your journey, to grow, to live your dream. For more than 20 years, Fund Access has been empowering entrepreneurs through access to finance, business training, and technical assistance. So whatever stage you're at, we can help. Call us at 228-1366 or visit us online at www.fundaccess.org. Fund Access, empowering entrepreneurs. It is often said that the longest journey begins with the first step. And here at Fund Access, we give you the courage to start your journey, to grow, to live your dream. For more than 20 years, Fund Access has been empowering entrepreneurs through access to finance, business training, and technical assistance. So whatever stage you're at, we can help. Call us at 228-1366 or visit us online at www.fundaccess.org. Fund Access, empowering entrepreneurs.